Coming up on this episode of Nothing to Bring.
We talk about the link between attendance and life satisfaction, AI and whether or not we should be using it to write EHCPs, a lot of Star Wars, and the platform pectech.org.uk.
I'm Matt Morris.
I'm Sarah Johnson, and we have...
Nothing to Bring.
My hands
You managed it.
I managed
it, but you had your hands on your face like you were concentrating so hard
I
to
was
just get the words
concentrating
out.
particularly hard.
I appreciate your concentration.
Thank you very much. It's been a long week. Came back from Nigeria Sunday morning, about 5 o'clock, having travelled through the night in premium. So it's not like I got a nice little sleep or something, you know, a lay flat bed. So I did quite a lot of work in Nigeria. So I met with parents and did some kind of assessments and bits, finding out more about their children, which was really good. And I did a conference and I spoke about storytelling and data with heart, as in the kind of emotional aspects behind behaviour and well-being. Because you know, Matt, I've got a platform on emotional well-being and how to kind of monitor it. And that's been a lot of my week, doing a lot of stress testing for the platform as well. It's been very fun, but very hard work.
Whilst you were in Nigeria, we were having some glorious weather.
Yes, I was having better weather.
I don't doubt that at all. But we did have summer. We had it. It came. It went.
It's been absolutely pouring down, and I keep on saying it's good for the grass. It's good for the grass because I'm now an adult, and all I talk about is grass.
Yeah, it's good for the grass. It's not good for the soul, though, is it?
No, I like the sunshine. It makes I love the warmth on my back. So for me, Nigeria was hot. I actually don't think it was hot as in England. And I like feeling the sun on my back, and I like the warmth. And you go in, and the air conditioning's on. And you're like, I'm just cold now. Thank you.
But we did have a very nice bank holiday weekend, which led into quite a nice week as well. So we chose, because it was so nice and warm, to go and sit in an air-conditioned cinema.
Yeah,
because why wouldn't you? You know.
What did you
go? I went to watch. I have a little thing to show. I went to watch. This is obviously visual for those listening and not watching on YouTube. This is one of those cups that you buy, one of the drinks cups with a topper, and it's got a Mandalorian and Grogu topper.
Amazing. That's very
on it. It's good. Yeah, it's really good. It's the best of the three that they did. They did some amazing popcorn buckets. They do a popcorn bucket, which is an AT-AT or 80-80 Walker, depending how your bread's buttered. Like the toy you got in the 80s, that size, but it's got a popcorn bucket inside it. Or it is a popcorn bucket.
Did you, it's a family popcorn bucket? You're not just eating that on your own, I'm assuming.
I would imagine so.
Did you eat it all by yourself?
I didn't buy it. Crikey, they're about 40 odd pounds. I don't know if you've seen it, but there is a real thing around popcorn buckets. This comes out of theme park culture. So there's a big thing, particularly in Disney, more so America, and also I think in Japan, where popcorn buckets are hugely collectible. A bit like Disney and Loungefly bags.
Okay.
Popcorn buckets, massively collectible. There was a Figment bucket. Do you know who Figment is?
No.
It's a little dragon. It's a Disney cartoon character. Okay. Features in some of the rides in Epcot. Figment popcorn bucket that people queued and were buying multiples of to sell on eBay. And they just would sell out, and people would queue for hours to buy these things.
Also, just enjoy it for what it is. You don't have to sell everything. Just enjoy it. Unpack it, scratch it, play with it, enjoy it.
But this has gone into theatre culture. And obviously, popcorn is very much a movie thing.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, traditionally. But popcorn buckets have become a really big thing in the last few years, largely as a result of kind of that culture that's grown around popcorn. Apparently, it's more so I said Japan, I think it's Japan. Because they have thousands of varieties of popcorn, flavoured popcorns. So when you go and get your popcorn, it's just, and they're bizarre. It's like the beans, every flavoured bean in Harry Potter, the jelly beans.
Yeah, they have that in America.
It's a bit like that, but popcorn.
There's different flavours as well. What do you prefer, salt or sweet?
Sweet. Salt's nasty.
Salt on its own, I agree. Salt and sweet is quite nice.
Why do that? Why do that to yourself?
Quite like it. Are you going to see He-Man? Not He-Man.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Masters of the Universe, yes. We're going to go this weekend. So that will probably be when we will probably be in the cinema watching it when this podcast is released on Saturday.
Oh, brilliant.
So, yes, we are going this weekend to watch it. But Mandalorian and Grogu, we went and watched that during the holiday. I need to talk about it because a bit torn on it. So before we came on, we were talking live action Star Wars TV programs. And I said to you, have you watched Mandalorian? And you said, I think so.
Yeah, it wasn't great, was it?
clearly not memorable. No, it's great. It's really great. I think Andor is better, and I think you said Andor is better.
Yeah,
as well.
I'm really enjoying Andor. So no spoilers because I haven't finished it, and I know I'm late to the party,
Of
so
course.
it's my own fault. But I think the kind of the sort of story arc of the characters I'm really enjoying. So it was recommended by AI. So we wrote everything that we watch, what we like, what we don't like, and it said, you know what, like, because we didn't know what to watch past whatever we just finished, and it recommended that, and I was like, amazing. I'm really enjoying it. So basically, I'm going to rely on AI to tell me what to watch next. That's how AI is going to take over the world through my TV watching.
So, simple question, because we know you're a Star Trek fan. Are you a Star Wars fan in any way?
So I didn't see any of the Star Wars films until about 10 years ago. So again, particularly late to the party. And I did enjoy them. So I went to go, so I watched them before I went to go and see the new one that came out, whenever it was. So people say to me how out of date I am. I went to go and see it in the IMAX in London, and saw one in the Science Museum as well. You can see films in the Science Museum, and that's a lot of fun because you walk through the Science Museum, but it's kind of nighttime, so it's completely closed and you get to look at things. And I did enjoy them. Did I watch them more than once? No, but I've watched a lot of the series that have come out as well. And I've been enjoying them. Like, no shame, they're good.
And what's good about a lot of the live action series is they take really seriously the idea of the world of Star Wars and continuing the developing idea of Star Wars going forwards, the lore, the character arcs, the worlds, exploring all of these things. And that's what I think is really good about both Andor and Mandalorian. Just quickly though, have you watched Rogue One?
Yes.
Which is effectively the rebellion incursion to try to get the Death Star plans.
Yeah,
which leads directly into Star Wars: A New Hope.
And
so obviously that the Andor character is in that. He's a central character.
Yeah, and I was going to say that kind of you can see that they were creating the Death Star with the within the prison. They were doing the components over and over again because obviously it's such a huge thing. Mm-hmm. We probably should warn that there's spoilers when this goes out, but most people would have watched it, I'm sure. It's just me that hasn't seen it.
No, and well, without spoiling it, obviously all this takes place before Rogue One.
Well, yes,
so it can only be finite. Yeah. So we know where it will eventually go because that already exists. But you see, this is where I'm a bit torn on the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. So what's good about those current live Star Wars TV series is the thought that has gone into, and it's largely driven by two people. And I'm going to murder names here, but so it's Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. These are two guys who clearly have an absolute passion for Star Wars and are investing so much into the lore, the characters, the worlds, and developing those on so much further than the original George Lucas vision. Obviously, to make that a movie, you've got to strip out some of that lore, some of that character development, because otherwise it's not got the pace it needs for a 2-hour film. So what you are watching in the movie, which I enjoyed, my kids absolutely loved it, and they've not seen the Mandalorian TV series, so they've now gone back to start watching that. And this is a good thing. What it does well is they've made sure that it can appeal to a broader audience. So it is a sort of a feel-good action adventure movie. There's a bit of character development in there. Grogu as a character plays more of a role than he has done in the series. But it's all condensed down into this kind of more action adventure than the TV series is. You could see how this would work as a series. It's got the tone, it's got the feel. I worried how they would bring that onto the big screen away from the TV series. But it's there, it's got the feel. One of the best things about it is its score. It has this really kind of haunting 80s synth pop music, which is a bit kind of like 80s horror thriller music. Really good. So it's got this beautiful score to it. Obviously, stunning visuals. I have a real issue, though, with some of the CGI. Because there's a character, I'm not going to say who it is or what it is, but there's a character that they've deliberately kept out of all of the advertising.
Okay.
Deliberately so it's a bit of a surprise when you see this character. And it's a CGI'd character, and the surprise is obvious when people see it. But actually, I don't think the CGI is as good as it could have been. Given a TV series that they've spent a lot of time investing in kind of more analog/digital technologies, so more with puppets, more with, they have that incredible digital stage where they project the background and then build physical props in front of, which is now being used more and more in cinema.
Soundscapes.
I can't remember what it's called. It's got a name.
Yeah, my friend does stuff like that, and I'm sure he's told me the name of it, and now I've completely forgotten it. I'm sure it's something like sound. I'm going to Google it.
Given they've invested or the vision for, particularly for Mandalorian, but for things like Andor and other projects as well, is to go more physical props, physical sets in front of digital backgrounds, puppetry. This uses a lot of CGI and a lot of CGI for characters, and it feels a bit like a backward step. And so that's the bit that was a bit disappointing. I got past that because, it doesn't ruin the movie in any sense. But fundamentally, what you've got is a dumbed down version of the series condensed down into 2 hours, so that it's all of the kind of key action points with a bit of a soft spot in the middle, which develops the Grogu Mandalorian relationship a little bit more. So again, I'm a bit torn. Kids loved it. I enjoyed it. It's got the tone and the feel of the series, but it's a series dumbed down for a broader mainstream audience.
So I've put it in Claude, an AI thing. I think you mean a way of recent blockbusters actually look really immersive, almost dimensional backgrounds. You might be thinking of virtual production using The Volume, also called Stage.
The Volume.
That's a huge LED wall setup made famous by The Mandalorian.
It's called The Volume. That's it.
So there we are. I think I know it, but I think I know the term stagecraft because that sounds more like soundscape. Basically, I know nothing about films, just to let people know, or the creation of them. But I understand that acting happens within filming.
Well, it's the thing about something like The Volume as a system for creating TV is it's a cheaper way of producing quite high scale projects. We've talked a lot about Star Trek and production values and wobbly cardboard walls. Yep. That was because TV was made quite cheaply and made in volume. And this is a way of doing the same thing cheaply, but at a higher quality of scale. So that's now being used more and more so for TV projects, particularly within Disney, particularly Star Wars, because it's a way of creating sets that otherwise would cost huge sums to produce. And I'm surprised other people and other productions haven't cottoned onto this. I've watched the behind the scenes of Stranger Things, for example, and they produced some of the sets in huge detail for that production, for that final series, rather than use more of a digital approach.
I'm going to message my friend and find out why that is, because there must be a reason for that.
I think it comes down to, some of it comes down to preference in terms of the way that directors and show leads like to do their visuals. Some of it comes down to not knowing what it is you're going to want the final product to look like. If you think about The Volume, if you think about creating a set for something like The Mandalorian or Andor, you will have had to have designed the backdrop already. You've got to have that projected as part of that backdrop with then the physical sets built in front of it. If you haven't done that yet, you can create that later in post-production. So you can
know. Yeah.
You don't have to have the full detail. So there's, I guess, in order to do that, you have to put more into the planning, into the pre-production planning work, developmental work, than into the post-production, although there's still a lot of work to do in post-production as well. So anyway, sort of going back to it, it's a good summer family movie, but it's Mandalorian and Grogu, but it's not quite. Here's the thing that it misses. It doesn't do anything for Star Wars. It doesn't do anything for Mandalorian
or anything.
It doesn't drive the forward. If you watch, and again, no spoilers, but if you watch the Mandalorian, all the series of the Mandalorian, it gets to a point where there's a kind of a natural point where there's a sort of a sense of balance. However, there's still lots of stories to be told about Mandalore, the planet, and also the Mandalorian as a group of people. And there are different versions of Mandalorians. There are some who will always put the helmet on. There are some who don't wear them at all. So there's still stories to tell in that kind of world. And this does nothing to push this on. This is very much almost like a side quest to the main story. And it's done so that it works for a broader audience. I watched it thinking I might have to explain some things to my kids because they hadn't watched the series. I didn't have to explain anything.
So it stands on its own.
Yeah, it didn't rely on any history from Star Wars, really. Or if it did, there were things thrown in there. There are a couple of things in there. You go, oh yeah, I know why that's there and I know what that means. But a casual coming to it wouldn't need to know that either, both in terms of Star Wars or in terms of Mandalorian itself.
Recommend the film?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're a Star Wars fan, if you're a fan of Mandalorian, I'd go and watch it. It's a great film.
Do you recommend spending a fortune on a popcorn bucket?
No, I don't think. I mean, you could pick up a cheap AT-AT Walker that's got half its bits missing at a car boot sale. Sometimes people want you charge for the odds for it, and you could just hollow it out and put popcorn in it yourself if you really wanted to. But I'm not on board with the trend of popcorn buckets.
Not on the trend.
Makes me sound really old, but
you are really old. We've had this conversation before.
I'm not as old as you think. We've had that conversation too.
Look at your grey beard.
You think of it as
using just for men on your beard. Colour it in.
I don't think I'd look like me anymore. I think I wouldn't say distinguished. I wouldn't say, presents a form of wisdom in one's age. But I think I'd look odd, actually, now, if I tried to dye that.
Do you ever shave your beard?
Yeah, I do. I'd shave it closer.
Okay.
Just otherwise it gets really out of control.
You get a really big bit, like really grow it, like be all up for the beard.
No, what, like some sort of wizened old wizard?
Yeah.
Because I reckon if I grew this out, it would just be grey, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Grey and ginger, because whatever your hair colour is, beards have ginger bits in it. True fact.
Yeah. Two things that look wrong on me, right? Longer beards or no beard at all.
Okay.
Without a beard, I look like a 12-year-old. You laugh, I do. And I will share with you the photographic evidence to prove it on another occasion.
Can we not put it on screen and go, this is Matt, clean shaven?
Well, look, we're recording this quite late in our kind of production window. If I get the time, maybe I will, or maybe we'll just chuck it on to Instagram or something to go with the episode.
We've been really busy and tired as well. So the kind of Nigerian trip and things like that. And with that, I wasn't able to organise my setup. I'd like to do a formal complaint to my husband's friend who used my desk and seems to have unplugged everything. So my light's not working, my camera's not working, my microphone's not working. And if I had more time, I would have organised that perhaps better. So what I'm going to do is make Daniel's friend watch this, and I'd like a formal apology from him.
And if we can record that, and we'll include that in a future episode. Maybe.
Yeah, his response to my complaint, which is probably you just need to plug something in, darling. Just
going back to previous episodes, there's something we haven't yet done. And I keep thinking about this because I keep thinking about other content for our channel. We've talked about other content so many times, and I've talked about potentially doing things like unboxing videos. I'm currently finding video gaming. I'm a video gamer, but I'm finding playing video games really difficult. And I've mentioned this a few times where I struggle to get into video games now. I used to pick up a controller and sort of embed myself in a video game for hours and hours. I daren't look at how much played time I have on World of Warcraft. Just it's years in continuous hours on World of Warcraft, or just on one character, and I've got a number of characters. But I'm playing a lot of, and this is a set of games that I go back to regularly. And when I say set of games, historically different games, but I go back to Planet Coaster, currently Planet Coaster 2, which is a theme park building simulator. Having played all that sort of stuff in the past. So the original theme park World, then Roller Coaster Tycoon. Planet Coaster 2 is the natural successor to Roller Coaster Tycoon, which was Atari, but the game was created by a company called Frontier. Frontier are the company behind both Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo. And in these games, you can create photorealistic theme parks.
And there's loads of videos where you can play games and people just watch you playing games. Maybe that's...
God, people build stuff in this game, record it, stick it on YouTube. So I watch these videos to work out how I should be building these things and get ideas. I can't do any of it. I can make sort of natural stuff, foliage and rocks and things look really nice and lovely. When it comes to actually just putting together a building for my rides, terrible. But, sorry, that was an aside to say, talking about all stuff for the channel, the one thing we haven't done yet is we haven't recorded our D&D session with DC Bradshaw.
Well, that's true. We need to get him to do that. You can be a rogue or something. I tend to be a rogue, but I'll let you be a rogue.
Look, it's all new to me.
Okay, so we will hold your hand with it.
Isn't it? Remember, what I said was I'm scared of doing it because, and you've all said, no, look, it's not quite what you think.
So you've got D&D Beyond, which is online website where you can put your character in and essentially it will roll dice for you and do the maths for you. I'm sure your maths is fine, but it'll tell you what spells you've got. So you've got it all on the kind of right-hand side. You've got your character's attributes like charisma, intelligence, wisdom, blah, blah, blah.
None of that.
So, but we can hold your hand through it. And we can do a kind of...
That's the point, isn't it?
We can do a gateway game for you so it doesn't feel so oppressive. A gateway game.
No, and I'm all up for it because that was the agreement. We said we'd do it.
Yeah, you did. So maybe
Dave said,
I'll
take you through it, and I said we'll record it. But yeah, we've got to do it at some point in the next... Doesn't have to be, maybe it's in the next few weeks, maybe it's in the next 6 weeks. At some point we've got to
invite him again. And he writes some of his own games as well, so that'd be quite fun.
He does. And it'd be nice to see where he's at with that as well.
Yeah. He's doing really well. I mean, he's fabulous. So it will only go from strength to strength for his games he's writing, I'm sure. I'm just thinking we've spent 26 minutes talking about our geeky things.
Yes.
Which is good because actually this is where people turn off and go, I'm not interested. But I thought
absolutely
it might be good to...
I sometimes I switch off now whilst we're recording.
When I talk about education things. Right. Well, you can't. So, talking about life satisfaction, that's me not really segueing particularly well.
Is this the attendance thing?
Yeah. Have you read it?
Yeah, I literally read the story about an hour ago.
So do you want to explain it or shall I?
No, you carry on because you're all prepped to talk about it.
I'm all prepped. As standard, I've got all my paperwork.
Absolutely. Wouldn't want to take that from you.
So, thanks. So the new NFER report is looking at the relationship between attendance, well-being and a sense of belonging. It found a significant link between school absence and how satisfied young people feel within their lives. And the relationship is stronger for girls in particular. It looked at particularly 15-year-olds in England, and the whole kind of research spine connects the whole element to this idea of belonging. So the key findings are, it's sad really, it's girls as well, I feel for them. Lower life satisfaction is significantly associated with high absence, and it grows stronger as the absence rates rise. This relationship, as I said, is stronger for girls than boys, suggesting well-being is more closely tied to girls' attendance. A sense of belonging to school may improve attendance indirectly, although its effect on overall life satisfaction. And I think there's bits there is that we police attendance with fines and registers in that way. But actually, if attendance is a well-being signal, not a compliance problem, are we just punishing? And actually, what happens with punishing people around their attendance is the punishment is bigger for people from lower income families rather than high income families. So it kind of double punishes parents and carers in low income families. And that's just generally really worrying. But also there's a kind of causality. Does low well-being cause absence, or does absence erode well-being? And the reality is it's probably both and a mixture. And that's it really. I feel a bit sad about it. Because I have a child that struggles with attendance for lots of different reasons. It feels, if we've got girls not attending and not making friends and finding things really, really difficult for lots of different reasons, and then we punish them for it, or we struggle with how to deal with it, then that's a worrying concept, isn't it? I recently did some work with parents in Hackney for children with emotional-based school non-attendance, and it was evident how distressing and upsetting it was for parents and carers. And it wasn't just school that they were missing, it was friendships and engagement with others. And the children become further and further isolated the more they spent at home. But also there was kind of element, schools really struggled with how to deal with it. So how they dealt with it was kind of through the attendance route, which wasn't necessarily particularly helpful. I've talked loads, Matt.
That's fine, because I talked loads about geeky things earlier on in the episode, so it's fine for you to sort of take over here. I still think that we've got our entire approach to attendance in schools completely wrong. We don't look at what's right for children. We don't think about children individually. We tend to look too much at the headlines. It's important. We've talked about this. It's an NFER report, isn't it? One of the key headlines in that NFER report is about how the absence rate is still 50% higher than it was pre-COVID.
It's
if I've got my stats right.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's, go on.
50% above. So secondary absence averaged 8.4 in 2024-5, but it's more than 50%.
Is it about 5.5, 18, 19?
5.5 in 2018.
2018, yeah.
So yeah, more than 50% above pre-pandemic levels in terms of absence.
But that's the wrong way to look at attendance. And this is where we get it wrong. We look at attendance in terms of how it was in the year ago. You know, it's how we base a lot of our decision-making in education. This is how things used to be. And I'm going to take a bit of an aside here because there was a really great post I saw, and I'm butchering this now because I kind of briefly saw it, briefly read it, but didn't really take in the detail of it. And it was all about how behaviour has got to the point where it's got worse. Why has it got so bad? Well, actually, when you look back historically, it's no worse than it's ever been. We've just dealt with it differently, and things have changed over time. So it's the same for attendance. We need to look at what the factors are. Now, with girls' attendance here and life satisfaction, what is driving those high levels of absence periods for girls? And, why is that different to absent periods for boys? Why is it that we're not seeing the same similarity, or why is it we're not getting similarity between life satisfaction between girls and boys linked to attendance?
I'm wondering if girls are more likely, if they're absent from school, to have things like anxiety, depression anyway. And it's a circular thing as well, that if you don't engage with the things around you, you're more likely to be anxious and depressed. And I wonder as well about the autistic girls that aren't necessarily being diagnosed and they find things really difficult and they don't really necessarily have an understanding of themselves and their positioning in the community. So I think those things probably have an impact, that kind of girls being less likely to be diagnosed but yet struggle more in lots of ways because they mask.
I think you're right. I think technology plays a role in this as well, because I think it's really easy to be absent from school but still feel connected because of technology, because of phones, because of text messaging, social media, all of those things. It's very easy to think of phones as a connection to other people when they're not.
I think though, some of those elements of being on the phone are isolated, so the communication drops as well. So you'll hear stories about children not going to see their friends anymore and they're doing things, but you might go on TikTok and Instagram, but actually you're not engaging with people on a kind
But isn't that life satisfaction? Because I'm not sure how they've come up with the measures in this particular report. So what are their gauges for life satisfaction?
So it analysed 2022 PISA wellbeing data and cross-referenced with the National Pupil Database for 15-year-olds in England. So it's 15-year-olds as well. Actually, if you looked at 12, 13-year-olds, 16, 17-year-olds, would it look different? With the 15-year-olds, those were the year 5, I think, during the COVID. So they did have a transition, but it was to secondary, but it was a difficult transition because COVID was still in the ether. So you can have a look though. So kind of invite the people that listen to this to have a look. It's really simple to find, but if you're not sure, if you just Google understanding the relationship between attendance, well-being and sense of belonging, and that was June 2026. So it was only a couple of days ago that it was published. The Schools Week have covered it as well, and CYP now have covered it. So there's a few organisations that have picked up on it.
It's good that it's got a bit of coverage, because it's interesting that you picked up on it and I also picked up on it completely separately.
You remembered all
before we came to it. I remembered some of those statistics.
Really good.
But they stand out. Yeah, but they stand out for me because I work in the statistics of certain things on a daily, weekly basis, and attendance is one of the statistics I work in on a regular basis. And I remember a lot of those things. I remembered that, and it stood out for me because it's a headline that's being used as a measure, and I don't think it's the right way. I get that it kind of provides the point. It pushes the point home that attendance is still lower than it was pre-COVID. I understand that, and I get what they're trying to do with the reporting of that. But in using that, it's a little misleading because that is not telling you why. It's telling you this has happened, but it's not telling us why that's happened.
Also, the register codes for attendance have changed. So
Absolutely.
You could B code a child if they were engaging with the AV1 robots from no isolation. A child might be attending school in terms of virtually the AV1 robot that sits on a desk, they're controlling it, they're answering questions out loud, but that's counted as an absence. And that's the same with things like Academy 21 and Nisai. It's There's a few things around that actually the way that we monitor attendance has also changed dramatically.
Yeah, well, children who can't attend school regularly because of medical needs, children who, for example, might need some sort of phased return to school or approach to schooling, they are disadvantaged by the new attendance code.
Yeah, if the register closes at a certain time,
yeah,
it is counted as an absence.
It's counted an absence, yes.
It's ridiculous because they're physically there. That nuance is completely lost with the...
And that raises safeguarding questions, because then from a safeguarding point of view, let's say you're sat there with an Ofsted inspector, so you're telling me that child wasn't in or was in, but they're late. Where does that sit safeguarding? There are problems within. We know this. There are real problems. It goes back to what I said a minute ago, which is our approach to attendance is completely wrong. And that's the perfect example of how currently the codes don't work for our children or for the needs of our children.
And it's such an easy win as well. It's such
Yes.
if you change it and make sure it is more reflective of what's happening within the school environment. So we're not saying we need to fudge the data. We need to say the data needs to be clearer. And it needs to be clearer through the use of attendance coding in particular. It's a quick, easy win, and actually it would make a real difference to how schools respond to things like technology. Because what I've noticed that schools are saying, well, the AV1s we can't use because they're not there. The DfE have been very clear about that. You need to do what's in the best interest of the child. Schools are stuck in a rock and a hard place around, okay, so are the kind of online equivalents or the telepresence solution something that we will use because actually it reflects badly on us as a school, but that might be the best thing for the child. I would always say you do what's best for the child.
Absolutely.
And you justify that. You go, this is what's right.
Yeah. How can we have a situation though where we have got children who are physically sat in a school building, but the management information system says they are absent? The most simple solution to all of this is to take away that nuance that's within those codes, which says, well, basically get rid of the late after a certain. Why does the late period have to close? Why does the registration period have to close? That's an archaic old view, isn't it? That's clocking into a factory. That's what that is. It's going back to a really archaic way of looking at attendance. So why does it need to close? Why not just have a way of coding which shows the lateness, but that you record the time the child comes into school?
That's what
so that you know they're in, they're sat there, the system says they're in.
And you'd put a little flag on the
Yeah.
management information system to kind of do that, so you've got that narrative. And that's particularly helpful when children might be transported in. So I'm thinking about alternative provision and pupil referral units. They might be travelling further than what they would be doing in their mainstream school. They might be taxied in, for example, as well, and have no control over what's going on. But it's also going to affect children carers, so the young carers, because they might have responsibilities at home before they rock up at school. So there's all different elements that actually it penalises probably the most vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, I work in a special education system in a county where there is only one SEMH school, and that school stops at the end of Key Stage 3. What that means is any child who is going to a specialist provision for SEMH could be travelling from any part of the county.
To another county as well. For the Key Stage.
Or could be going to another county. But if you take those children who are in Key Stage 3 coming to that school, it's a big county. They could be travelling 2 hours just to get to that school, which is smack bang in the middle of the county.
And it must be so tiring for them as well.
Exhausting. Yeah, absolutely. And is that the best thing for them? Because are they coming to you in the best frame, having travelled that long? That just goes to show you the issues that we have still in the SEND system in terms of the gaps. But it highlights it highlights the attendance coding system, that you've got a child who could turn up quite late through no fault of their own. Let's say a bus breaks down on the way there. That means they arrive after the registration period closes. They are technically absent. How can that be right?
Yeah, and physically there. But actually, you've mentioned special educational needs in particular. And so bear with me when I talk about this, because it will become why I'm talking about this. So the government-backed AI guidance for school, and it's been developed by the Chiltern Learning Trust and the Chartered College of Teaching, has been refreshed. And it particularly covers using AI to draft SEND support plans, hence we go and talk about special needs, but says you can't use AI around statutory documents in particular. So councils are struggling with meeting their kind of statutory duties for educational healthcare plans, but we're not allowed to use AI. Staff must be very cautious with pupil data. You can't just be running it into AI. We know that's not appropriate. But yeah, AI must not write statutory documents such as EHCP or decide whether or not a child has a special educational need anyway, using the kind of AI as well. But also, a social and emotional mental health support provision is explicitly off limits for AI to determine. And the new safeguarding section warns about cognitive offloading and actually the risk of children forming emotional attachments to chatbots. Schools should help pupils tell AI from humans. So I found that quite important. And I suppose, where does the professional sit with that? The real kind of person that has professional judgment. And I suppose also, are we training a generation of Senkos and caseworkers who might be able to review information but not author it? So again, it's kind of removing that kind of professionalism. I love AI as well, by the way. I'm a big fan of AI. I use it quite a lot. I think it saves me a lot of time, but I always have an oversight, and I'm always entering in the information as the specialist and asking for it to collate and collect together. And things like, can you spell check it as well?
We've talked about that several times here, about using AI and where the boundary should be. I think in education, AI should never replace the human. It should never replace human interaction. It should never do the job that we as professionals should be doing. But interesting, you said there about how AI should not be used to create EHCPs. What about products that are out there in the marketplace which are for the creation of EHCPs that probably already use AI in order to support the generation of them?
I think it takes away the story of the child and someone that knows them, and it becomes perfunctory rather than relational. I think EHCPs should outline what a child needs and so on, but I think you need the relational element of actually someone is holding all those threads together and knows that child. And that's why we had things with EHCPs where you have a picture of the child at the front, because it's a reminder behind this paper is actually a child that is finding things really difficult for lots of different reasons. And this is the way we can support. You know, Matt, I've designed an app called PECTech. You can find it on pectech.org. And at the moment, we're intentionally not using AI. And you kind of score children across a whole range of domains about relationships with adults, behaviour and conduct, and all those sorts of things. And it spills out information depending on the interventions that you put in place. But actually, that's monitoring. It's not about the human interaction. And what it does is it gives more time for the member of staff to actually support the child rather than ignore the child. So it gives Senkos more space in which to do that. So I'm quite happy if that's the systems in place, if it gives more time.
I can understand the argument for AI though, because I think it was either the last episode or the episode prior to that, we talked about the growing burden on Senkos and the workload on Senkos. And somebody who was a Senko 10 years ago did not have the same workload as they have today. All right, that's generalizing, but the expectation on today's Senko is huge.
Really massive.
Comparable to 10, 20 years ago. So the use of AI seems like a sensible thing to help with workload, but it's going to take away from that really valuable work that a Senko does.
And Senkos, so I used to be a director of inclusion, but was essentially doing the Senko work. This must have been 12 years ago now. It was when we moved from statements to EHCPs, so whenever that was. And there was already a burden with sort of transferring and translating the statements into EHCPs and working with the local authority around that. And even then, it was incredibly difficult. And what that did is it took me away from kind of directly working with the children, advising teachers on how to support those children, and working with parents and carers as well. And that has only kind of escalated in the last 12 years easily. And Senko's do an amazing job in really difficult circumstances.
Yeah, and I think you've just highlighted the bit that is perhaps, again, maybe generalising, but it's perhaps the bit that is easy to get forgotten, which is you do the work with the child, you do all of the statutory paperwork that you need to do with the child, the meetings, and then it's that kind of, that next step, that follow-up, the outreach, it's the working with professionals, it's spending some time with the class teacher to understand that child's needs and to develop the strategies. these are the things that I fear that we will go first. They're the things that will be lost. And whilst there's an onus on a teacher to understand SEND needs and to adapt to the needs of children anyway. However, it should be really joined up approach within the school. And it feels like that's the bit we could end up losing.
And the needs are so diverse as well, and training is really limited. I think if training was more robust and comprehensive, I think the teacher would have a better chance. But actually, there's little support around that and about, why might children behave in certain ways. And that's why, and Matt, you've contributed to it. It's a guide for behaviour for early careers teachers, and that's coming out around September. With that, you've got experts that have worked with children over the years with behaviour, including classroom teachers. That was really important to me. And they give their experience, their expertise, their wisdom around how do you support a child with these sorts of behaviours, but also from the lens of child might have difficulties, trauma, adverse childhood experiences, and they might have special needs. And those people writing will have that lens to try and kind of understand and unpick. But those have taken years and years. Like in terms of collective wisdom, the people that have contributed, it's hundreds of years. You cannot expect a teacher, an early years teacher, to kind of have those early careers teachers to have those experiences and knowledge.
No. But what happens if workload drives those experienced Senkos out of the system?
Yeah.
That's a real threat, isn't it? Because where does the knowledge, you talk about that going back generationally, where do you get that? As soon as you lose the expertise from your system, where does it come from? You create a vacuum. And if the training isn't up to scratch, if the people coming through the system don't have that knowledge, and they're not going to have the lived experiences of it, of course they're not, and the 20 years of being a Senko, but how do you fill that void? And again, more and more is going to be asked of people in terms of SEND, in terms of inclusion, in terms of the wider picture of each child holistically. What are we doing for every child? And that's only going to increase over the next 10 years. Well, that brings us neatly to the end of today's episode. I think we've covered some really geeky bits. Sorry if I got a little bit too into my review of The Mandalorian, but it did leave me thinking. So interesting. And do you know what? Next time I'll come back and talk about Masters of the Universe.
Amazing.
Hopefully. Are you going to see it, by the way?
Yeah, I'm going to try and go and see it. Absolutely.
Okay. So maybe if we've both seen it, we could talk about it. But I'll be interested. I'm going to quiz you on Andor in the future because now I know you're watching that. I'll be really interested to see
really good
how you feel about it. So that brings us, as I say, to the end of this episode. Thank you once again for joining. If you've made it this far, fabulous. We love to see you. But if you haven't, then we'll talk about you behind your back because you're not here. Please share, like, subscribe, and tell all your friends. Bring a friend next time. Why not? So that leaves us just to say...
I'm Sarah Johnson.
I'm Matt Morris, and we have...
Nothing to bring.